Emmanuel Macron said it so well that we can only thank him for this sincerity, even if some wanted to put the powder in the eyes of their population. But reality ends up catching up too. They will not leave some countries, they have just dissolved the device. You will no longer see them in bases, but in the embassies they will be there. They will build security companies to secure their companies that exist in these countries. But the soldiers will be there. You will no longer see them in uniforms or gathered in bases. That's all it means. They will reorganize, but they will be there. He spoke of politeness towards certain heads of state by giving them the primacy of announcing the break or the departure of the French forces. It does not matter to us much, we can say, but all we know is that if you want a break with these imperialist forces, it's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts there. I think that the example of Chad, in any case, is palpable.
Hey guys, as you're watching this video, our vision is to reach 500,000 subscribers. Hit the subscribe button, join membership to support our channel, and join Patreon and PayPal. All the links are in the description. Do that to stand with us for this beautiful cause of One Africa right now. We do not forget to sign up for the petition. The link is down below. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Votez! Sound! Présentez! Sound!
Souhaite très bonne et heureuse année 2025.
A very good and happy year 2025, through you, to all the staff working at the institution present at the FASO. I wish that 2025 will be a year full of health for you, your families and your loved ones, so that you can give the maximum of yourself in the work for the happiness of our people. May 2025 be a year where you will see all your projects crowned with success, prosperity, and above all, throughout the year, may God guide our action, protect us and watch over us. I also wish to remind everyone that the fight against imperialism must therefore be integrated in our genes now. It must be a fight that is being fought relentlessly and every day, because many people have not understood what this fight so far is. Our brave fighting forces are on the ground. They are fighting against the manipulated valleys. These criminals who occupy our countryside every day and hold fast to bring peace to our dear Faso. As much as they do, our laborious popular masses, which are farmers and farmers, are also fighting so that we can achieve food, self-sufficiency, through the support of all the technicians of the Ministry of Agriculture. This is very important. And as much as they are also fighting in the administration, we must fight to change our mentality. This mental decolonization is the most difficult part. And that is why we want to constantly remind you that we must change our mentality, return to our sources and fight. And that is also the fight against imperialism. All opportunities are there for us to understand imperialism and its manifestations. When I recently took the words of Emmanuel Macron on Africa, well, every conscious African should therefore understand very quickly everything he could tell us and what it means. General Tiani said not long ago that the change of tactics or strategies of the French forces in Africa, and I think he came to confirm it, is about dissolving and keeping a solid device. Emmanuel Macron said it so well that we can only thank him for this sincerity, even if some wanted to put the powder in the eyes of their population. But reality ends up catching up too. They will not leave some countries, they have just dissolved the device. You will no longer see them in bases, but in the embassies they will be there. They will build security companies to secure their companies that exist in these countries. But the soldiers will be there. You will no longer see them in uniforms or gathered in bases. That's all it means. They will reorganize, but they will be there. He spoke of politeness towards certain heads of state by giving them the primacy of announcing the break or the departure of the French forces. It does not matter to us much, we can say, but all we know is that if you want a break with these imperialist forces, it's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts there. I think that the example of Chad, in any case, is palpable. They started by denouncing the agreements. Otherwise, if we do not denounce the agreements, just say that the bases leave, we have done nothing. Because the problem is, in the colonial agreements of defense that have been signed since independence, the most dangerous is not what you see in the bases. The most dangerous are the military advisors. Military advisors exist in all these countries. They also existed in Burkina Faso until the end of 2022, until we took our responsibilities. And who are these military advisors? It is those who are supposed to put into practice the policy of France here. They must work to make our armies very weak so that France can always have the argument to exist here. Under Blaise Compaoré, they had succeeded. Our sentinels therefore took guard with sticks. This is what France wants from our armies. When we arrive at this stage, we have no choice but to want them to settle. But the Burkina Faso army managed at some point to get rid of the military advisors. Unfortunately, I think that in 2019, after the operation in Tapuano, where these French saw that the Burkina Faso army still had the capacity to react to terrorism, they called the head of state major in France. They instructed him to take over the military advisors in the entire structure. Well, he did not accept, but when he returned to the country, the politicians instructed him to accept the military advisors. And this is where the military advisors came back to the Burkina Faso army in 2019. With all the consequences we know, the army was disappearing in the years 2020-2021. And besides, this is the moment when many soldiers had to desert because there was no hope. We were collapsing. This is how they work. At the head of state major of the armies, in all the head of state major of the armies, in the schools, it is they who are supposed to dictate the policy of our army. It is they who tell us how many to recruit, when to recruit, and what to do. They are in the schools to tell us how to train them and so on. As long as these military advisors are there, you are not independent. Your army will just have the appearance of an army that will be there doing parades, circuses. But when the war comes, you will realize that the parade is one thing, but the war is another thing. We have to break the agreements. This is the only way to have an independent army and to build ourselves up and be strong. But many people may not understand this. And even with these agreements, France chooses in our states official students to train them. 701. It goes through these same agreements. But in reality, it is the officers who go to train for the most part. For France, they come to serve the French state in their country. They do not come to serve our countries. They train them to serve the interests of the French state. I have proof of this. When we revolted, many officers in Burkina Faso who were trained in France were immediately contacted to tell them that it was time to take action because they had been trained to serve the interests of France. Most of these officers realized this. We took action and we continue to do so. When an officer trained in France arrives in his country and unfortunately dies either by accident or on the battlefield, in France there is a night of mourning for the dead in the army. Like everywhere else, on the night of mourning for the dead, we cite the name of the officer in question and we say, "Dead for France." They do not train him to serve his country, they train him to serve their state. 806. In many African states, there are plenty of these officers. God knows how many are patriots. This is a lesson that Emmanuel Macron gave to the African leaders to catch up and to be able to really fight imperialism. In addition to that, he also insulted all Africans in his words. There is a part that caught my attention where he spoke of ingratitude, and that ingratitude is a disease, not transmissible to humans. He is human, our ingratitude is not transmissible to him. This is how this gentleman sees Africa. He sees Africans. 849. We are not humans in his eyes. Maybe he is not human. He does not put himself in the class of humans. But if there is ingratitude, it is him. I think that if he is not an atheist and that he prays, every morning when he wakes up and prays, he should also pray for Africans. Because it is thanks to our ancestors that France exists today. He should pray for us. In his eyes, we should not be humans. We are more than humans. These are very strong messages that he sends. I cry for the French people, but still, it is good for Africa. It is a necessary evil for us. Those who want to wake up, wake up. Those who do not want to wake up, as we say, cannot wake up someone who does not sleep. Africans must wake up. We must work to be independent, to at least make our people know happiness. And the fight against imperialism, that's it. We must decolonize the mentality. Take all this data into account, because the world gives us so many examples to see. For them, there is no morality. They can call you terrorists today, but tomorrow you are a hero. By their simple mouth, they decide what they do. They talk about democracy, but they make a coup d'etat between them. They talk about human rights, but they decimate populations elsewhere. Africans must wake up. Africa must wake up. The fight against imperialism is permanent. I invite you to join this fight, to work so that we are truly independent, that we are self-sufficient, and that we can develop no happiness, what our people aspire to. Thank you. I wish you a very good day, a very good week, and a very good year. At the end of this year, by doing the retrospective, we must say that we have brought a great plus to our nation. Thank you very much to all. May God bless you, and may God protect our dear homeland. The homeland or death, we will win.
Que nos peuples connaissent le bonheur. Et la lutte contre l'impérialisme, c'est ça. Il faut décoloniser les mentalités, prendre en compte toutes ces données-là, parce que le monde nous donne tellement d'exemples à voir. Pour eux, il n'y a pas de morale. Ils peuvent vous désigner aujourd'hui terroriste, mais demain, vous êtes un héros. Par leur simple bouche. Ils décident de ce qu'ils font. Ils parlent de démocratie, mais ils se font eux-mêmes des coups d'État constitutionnels entre eux. Ils parlent des droits de l'homme, mais ils déciment des populations ailleurs. L'Africain doit se réveiller, l'Afrique doit se réveiller. Et le combat contre l'impérialisme est permanent. Je vous invite à incorporer ce combat, à travailler en sorte que nous soyons réellement indépendants, que nous soyons autosuffisants et que nous puissions nous développer, connaître le bonheur, ce à quoi notre peuple aspire. Merci, je vous souhaite une très bonne journée, une très bonne semaine et une très bonne année. Et que, à la fin de cette année 2025, en faisant la rétrospective, nous devrons nous dire que nous avons apporté un grand plus à notre nation. Merci beaucoup à tous. Que Dieu vous bénisse et que Dieu protège notre chère patrie. La patrie ou la mort, nous vaincrons.
This is the journey to one Africa.